Vasudevendra Yogendram Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Bhidhiyate. So the Shastra tells us that this universe, this cosmos, which is made up of so many galaxies, and each galaxy has got millions of stars. The stars are at, the distance between us and stars is 200 light years away. That means it takes 200 years for the light to reach us. That's how far the stars are from us, Then our Milky Way galaxy with its solar system, in the solar system, so many planets, and these planets have their own satellites or moon. Then on our planet, the different layers of atmosphere, the different layers of earth, and the different layers of hydrosphere, then all the living and non-living beings existing on this earth can all be categorized into three entities: Jeev, Jagat, Ishvara. That's how simple the classifications in the Shastras is, And Advaita is to know that these three entities are substantially same. They are the manifestation of Brahman, which is God. But today, not only we cannot see Advaita, non-duality, we cannot even see duality here. What we see is plurality. We see everybody as different from everybody else, So the Shastras have to start teaching us from where we stand. And they declare loud and clear that no human being can ever claim that he has realized Advaita. It is God who reveals himself to a very sincere student who has lived his life as per his law of dharma. That is such a person who abides by the law of karma, which is based on the law of dharma. So this knowledge can only be assimilated by an adhikari of this knowledge. For the others, it may maximum remain an intellectual information. It will not transform their life. In life, they will remain as samsaris. They will not be able to reach moksha. So the first topic of Tattva Bodha, that's why it tells us how to become an adhikari of this knowledge, It talks about all the qualifications which an adhikari needs, And these qualifications can be got when we lead a righteous life. There is no chance of getting these qualifications unless we lead a righteous life, a life of dharma. Then the second topic of Tattva Bodha was all about the Jiva and his compositions. The third topic was about the Jagat this Jiva interacts with. That is the composition of all the objects which go to make this Jagat. And this topic ended with the Mahavakya, Pind Brahmanda Yoho Ekyam Sambhutam. That is the Pind, the individual, the composition of the individual, as well as the objects which make this Brahmand are substantially the same. There's an Ekyam here, So this is a very huge thing to be told, And this topic told us how everything is same. That is, everything is a manifestation of Brahman. The sthul shariras of all the objects which make this Brahmanda are made up of Panchikrit Panch Mahabhutas. The Sukshma Shariras of all the living beings is made up of apanchikrit panch mahabhutas, which is sukshma mahabhutas. They are also called tanmatras in the Shastras. The non-living beings do not have a sukshma sharira. This is the difference between living and non-living beings, And all the objects of the world, they all have a karan sharira, that is a causal state from where it manifests and into which it goes back. The sthul shariras of all the objects of Brahmand together is called sthul prapanch. The sukshma shariras of all the people, of all the objects, all the manifestations here forms the sukshma prapanch, and the karan shariras of the entire objects of this world forms the karan prapanch. So this is how the Jeev and Jagat is same. There is an Aikyam here. So after having understood how there is an Aikyam between Jeev and Jagat, then the fourth topic of the text starts, which tells us about the Aikyam between Jeev and Ishvara. So we all know now who the Jiva is. We know his composition, we know everything. But the problem comes about Ishvara, most of the people in our religion also, they think that Bhagwan is in the temple, Ishvara is in the temple, And the people of other religion, they say that these Hindus are idol worshippers, not knowing that we are worshipping Bhagwan in that idol, So there is a lot of confusion here about Ishvara. The Muslims in the masjid, they pray in an empty space. They don't have anything there, not even Quran there, The Christians in the church, they have a statue of Jesus, and supposedly his teachings are supposed to be taught there, that is what the sermons there are about, is teachings of Jesus. But the interpretations of the teaching is visible in what these people are doing here, They definitely have a lot of brotherhood and a missionary zeal is there in them. But the agenda behind that should not be converting other people into their religion. This is a political agenda. So this goes to show the clarity they have about God. The Sikhs in their Gurudwaras, they pray to Guru Granth Sahib, the teachings in which they consider as their Guru, which has been given to them by their Guru, So that is where they're praying. Every religion has got something. It really doesn't matter what others are doing or what they think about us. Thing is that, do we know what our religion is saying? Do we know why we are doing what we are doing? If you ask anybody, why are you doing what you're doing? हमारे में ऐसा ही होता है, हम ऐसे ही करते हैं. क्यों करते हैं? That thought only will not come in the mind, because just mechanically it should. And mainly I'm going to God to ask for few things: health, wealth, prosperity. That's all everybody wants, So beyond that, nobody is thinking only about material world, So that ritual which is done in the temple during puja, where Bhagwan's Aarti is being taken, the bells are ringing, the shankh is blown, the agarbatti and the dhoop is lit, the prasad is given, the coconut is broken. What is the meaning of all this? Has anybody, we just go and we do the puja and we come back and Bhagwan, please give us this, So the question is not arising. People are only going there to ask Bhagwan for things, and some even have the audacity to bargain with God, that I will offer you so much, you please get this work done of mine. There are temples where you can go and do this, So imagine, there is nothing over here which truly belongs to us. We do not own anything. Everything belongs to Bhagwan. We are just temporary trustees of whatever we are possessing here. We don't know when we'll go away, and where this is going to go, don't know anything. This all belongs to Bhagwan is what we have to first know. What are we singing in that Aarti? Om Jai Jagdish Hare. Tan man dhan sab kuch hai tera. Tera tujhko arpan. Om Jai Jagdish Hare. We are singing, but still the way we are holding on to these things here which we have, and there will be fights, and what's all this going on, these wars and all, it's just, there, my land, my this thing, that thing, they're just fighting. It is all God's. If at least our religion is telling us that. So we have to know our religion. That doesn't matter what others are doing. We have to understand what our religion is teaching us. So that ritual in the temple has been designed by our masters in such a way that all our 5 senses backed by the mind can get focused on the puja which we do. Our sense of sight gets focused on Bhagwan's murti, and the arti which is being taken has got Agni in it. Agni is the first Mahabhut which has got form. The Akash and Vayu don't have form. Agni is the first one. So I can see with my sense, I'm seeing Bhagwan's murti and the arti. Agni Devta is there, With my ears, I'm hearing the bells and the shankh which is being blown. My sense of hearing is being focused there, With my sense of smell, my nose, I'm smelling the agarbatti and the dhoop which is being lit there. My sense of touch, with which I am putting the flowers at God's feet and even touching God's feet, even putting my head on God's feet, That is the sense of touch getting focused on the ritual. Then we taste the prasad, that is the sense of taste is getting focused. The coconut which we break is meant, it signifies that we break away from our egos, that is breaking our ego, Just ritually people are doing anything and they really don't know why they are doing. In the Shiva temple, in front of the Shiv Ling, there is a bull which sits there outside the temple. It's not because we pray to Gai Hamari Mata hai, wo to hai, but that bull is not Gai, that means something else. That represents a mind of a tapasvi, a contemplative mind who's contemplating on Ishvara, on Bhagwan. That is a mind, that signifies the mind. And when the mind is contemplating on Bhagwan, the mind is in bliss. That's the only time you will experience bliss, totally focused on Bhagwan. That is why that's called Nandi. Nandi means happiness, bliss. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji says Nandati Nandati Nandyateva in his in his Bhajagovindam, he says, So Nandi, between the tapasvi and Bhagwan, nobody should come in between. That's why we don't go and stand in front of Nandi when we're praying to Bhagwan. We pray from the side, not in front. Nobody comes between a tapasvi and God. Otherwise you will get it from God, When in some temples, Nandi is facing towards the village. There are temples with Nandi is not facing Bhagwan, Nandi is facing the village. Why? That time that Nandi is known as a Vahana. He is not called Nandi, it's called Vahana. When a realized mind, a mind has realized after all this tapasya, then Bhagwan uses that mind as a Vahana, as a vehicle to establish dharma here, to give this knowledge here. This mind becomes a Vahana, So these are the things which are generally not known, over here. We just ritually, just go and do that Bhagwan ka puja, hum aisa karte hain, aisa karte hain. But here at least now, hopefully everybody knows a lot, So now, what do we know about Ishvara? Ishvara is, the consciousness is Ishvara, and everything else here is only inert matter, which is alive on borrowed consciousness for a certain span of time. Now, this is all understood here, So before we get into this topic about Jeev Ishvara Ekyam, just like last time I said, Tattva Bodha doesn't teach everything step by step because it expects the students to know, and most of the Shastras are like that, So if we straight away go start reading, then we'll not be able to understand. So how this puny Jiva is similar to this Mahan Ishvara is the topic, and before we get into it, I will tell you a few steps, So just like the mirror has a capacity to reflect light, if there is a room which is dark and there is sunlight outside, we can keep a mirror at such an angle that the sunlight gets reflected from this, and it can be diverted into the dark room, and that room will get the light. Sometimes even we are going and there is some light coming from a mirror. It can be so blinding, it is so sharp that we have to close our eyes, because the mirror has that capacity. It has the capacity to reflect light. Similarly, matter has the capacity to reflect consciousness. So the consciousness which gets reflected, so first there has to be original consciousness which will get reflected. So the original consciousness is known as Brahman, represented by Om, Nirgun Brahman. Then the consciousness which gets reflected in Vyashti Upadhi is known as a Jiva, and that which gets reflected in Samashti Upadhi is known as Ishvara. Vyashti Upadhi is also called the microcosm or the Pindand, Pind in short, which are the three shariras of the Jiva. That is Vyashti Upadhi. This is Vyashti Upadhi. Samashti Upadhi is called the macrocosm or Brahmanda, the three prapanchas in the Jagat. So Jiva has this Vyashti Upadhi, this tiny, like a dot in this Brahmand is the Jiva's Upadhi, and the entire Brahmand is Ishvara's Upadhi, So in the consciousness which gets reflected in the Upadhis, be it Vyashti or Samashti, is known as Pratibimb Chaitanya in the Shastras. Pratibimb means reflection. And which gets reflected, the consciousness which gets reflected is known as the Bimb Chaitanya. So similarly, like when we are standing in front of a mirror, so my reflection is there in the mirror, that reflection is my Pratibimba, that is a reflected face. The mirror is the reflecting medium, and the face outside is the Bimb face, the original face. So in the Jiva, there is original consciousness mixed with matter, but it is there. Original consciousness, his Upadhi, the reflecting medium, and the reflected consciousness, which is called the Jiva. Jiva is the reflected consciousness. So in me, there is Pratibimba Chaitanya and there is Bimba Chaitanya. In me, what does that mean? In me, Pratibimba means the Jiva, the I is there, and Bimba is God. In me, there is me and there is God. So how am I alone? I've got God inside me. We just blind, God is there, God is there. No, now you know how God is there inside you. You are not alone. As a Vedanta student, now you know how God is there inside you. I am never alone. So where is the question of loneliness? Why is everybody so depressed and anxious? I am so lonely. Why? Because they don't know the secret. If you come to study Vedanta, you'll come to know, no? Make this effort to study Vedanta. All the problems of this life are going to get solved. But nobody wants to come. There is no person who is alone here. Bhagavan is inside us. Bimba Chaitanya is inside me. He is there with me at every step of my life. He is holding my hand at every problem of my life. And even when I need physical help, he can't give me physical help because he's invisible. But when I need physical help from his Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, he sends somebody. There will be somebody standing at your, whenever you need help, there's somebody there. This has to be experienced to be known, to be believed, to be realized. So a student of Vedanta lives his life in a relaxed way. He is never lonely. Now he knows logically how God is inside me, So the Jiva's got these three, and so does Ishvara. Ishvara has original consciousness. Then he has the reflecting medium, which is Brahmanda. this huge Brahmanda, which is where one star is 200 light years away from me, this whole thing. So the reflected consciousness in that is Bhagwan. That is why he's called omniscient and omnipotent. And this Jiva, he's also in the Sanskrit known as Sarvagya, Sarva Shaktiman, because that's the size of the consciousness which is reflected, you know. And the Jiva, in this tiny Jiva, he's got a small reflected medium and a little bit of reflected consciousness. So he's Alpagya and Alpa Shaktiman. He has little knowledge and he has little Shakti, you know. And Bhagwan is all Shakti, he's almighty and he's all knowledge. The original consciousness is all pervading. So it's not located anywhere, it's all pervading, you know. But the reflected consciousness is reflected in the reflecting medium. It cannot be, but it needs a reflecting medium to get reflected. So reflected consciousness is located. Original consciousness is eternal and immortal, but the reflected consciousness is dependent on the reflecting medium. When Pralayam takes place, the reflected medium and the reflected consciousness get resolved in Karan Prapancha. You've studied that, you know. So it is dependent on the reflected medium. Original consciousness is asanga, is untouched by the layers of matter. Though it's within the matter, but it's still untouched, it's pure, it's never touched. That is why it's called transcendental God in English. And reflecting medium and reflected consciousness is known as immanent God, manifested God. The reflecting medium is a manifestation. We've just finished studying, you know. That is how the Jagat is. It's the manifestation of God as well as the reflected consciousness in it. So transcendental and immanent. Original consciousness is nirvikaraha. There can be no modifications in the original consciousness. It is untouched. There are no changes which happen. There is no activity which takes place in original consciousness. But in the reflected consciousness, which depends on the reflecting medium, there are modifications. It can change, you know, it can get deformed, everything depends upon the kind of reflected medium. When the sun gets reflected in different kinds of water, like dirty water, shaky water, pure water, the reflection appears distorted in that. In dirty water it's dull, in shaky water the reflection is shaky, and in pure water it is a bright reflection. Or even our face, when it gets reflected in those convex and concave mirrors, our face appears distorted. That is why in these exhibitions and fate, you know, they'll have a little room with all sorts of mirrors and you can go and see your distorted figures and have a hearty laugh, you know, that's me, you know, because that has the capacity to distort. So that it depends on the reflecting medium. Hence the reflected consciousness is subject to gradations, because it's dependent on the reflected medium. So this reflected consciousness is different in humans, in plants, in animals, in birds. It's different because of the reflecting medium which it's getting reflected in, you know. Even in the humans, it is different depending upon the gunas of the people. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas make the three kind of people here, and then the differences are as per the mixture of these, you know. So in a sattvic person, the reflection is very bright. In a rajasic person, it is restless. In a tamasic person, it is dull. This reflection depending upon the reflecting medium. So in us, we have three portions. One is the kind of reflecting medium, depending upon our gunas. Then depending upon that is the reflected consciousness and the untouched original consciousness. So out of these three, two of them are unreal and finite, and one is real and infinite. So when I use the word I have to know that I'm made up of three portions. Two of them are mithya and one is satyam. This is what I have to understand. Similarly, in Ishvara, there are three portions. original consciousness, then the reflected medium in Brahmanda, and the reflected consciousness in Brahmanda Ishvara. That is why he is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, This Ishvara is, this reflected consciousness in Brahmanda is responsible for the orderly functioning of this entire universe. He is the author of all the laws in this creation, be they physical laws, natural laws, the law of dharma and the law of karma. He is the author, this reflected consciousness in the Brahmand. And all this information only Shastras can give, There is no way anybody else can find out all this. This is what the Shastra is saying. If you have belief in that, then you listen to this. If you don't have, we can't help you, So, this reflected consciousness runs this place in an orderly manner, and everything over here functions as per Bhagwan's order here. All the laws are running as per Bhagwan's order over here. He is the Karma Adhyaksha and Karma Phaladata. It is as per this law that I have a body which I deserve. You have a body which you deserve. I get the circumstances in my life I deserve. You get the circumstances in your life you deserve. People here have different spans of life. Some die early, some are praying to die. They want to go but they're not able to go. These differences are not accidental. They are based on the law of karma, which is very justfully handled by Ishvara. Every moment of my life what I am getting is just and fair as per Ishvara's law of karma. So Ishvara is also made up of three portions, He's got original consciousness, which is infinite and real, and reflecting medium and reflected consciousness, which is finite and unreal. Now, in both Jiva and Ishvara, the reality is what? Original consciousness. That is where the Aikyam is. Now, in me, when I'm seeing my reflection in the mirror, I'm not that pratibimba which is I'm seeing, no. I'm this what is outside. I'm the original face. Similarly, in the consciousness, I am the original consciousness. I cannot be a reflection, of the consciousness. This is my understanding. Most of the people are taking themselves to be the reflection, and so they're facing the music. If you come to know you're the original, the problem of life is solved. Just like a tiny bulb and a huge bulb has the same electricity. That bulb will be lit on electricity, that is going to be lit on electricity. Electricity part is same. So here the consciousness part, original consciousness is same between Jeev and Ishvara. The Aikyam is at that level. There is no comparison between reflecting medium, I am like a dot in this Brahmanda, and the reflected consciousness is also like a dot in this Brahmanda. There is no comparison. Comparison is in realities which is the same between Jeevan. This is the Aikyam. So with this understanding, now we are going to read. स्थूल शरीर अभिमानी जीवनामकं ब्रह्म प्रतिबिंबं भवति स एव जीवः प्रकृत्या स्वस्मात् ईश्वरं भिन्नत्वेन जानाति स्थूल शरीर अभिमानी, the one who is identified with his sthula sharira. Jivanamakam is called Jiva. The person who is identified with his physical body is called a Jiva. Brahma Pratibimbam Bhavati. He is only a reflection of Brahman. Sa eva Jivaha. This particular Jivaha, Prakritya, naturally, from birth, because of ignorance and not doing the inquiry he is supposed to be doing. Swasmat, himself, Ishwaram bhinnatvena janati. He takes himself to be different from Ishvara. So yes, we are born here because of self-ignorance. That is why we are born. If we had the knowledge, we would not have been born. A realized person is not born again. He merges with Brahman. We are only here because we had self-ignorance. Everybody is born only if they have self-ignorance. But that does not mean that we have to die with self-ignorance. And God has given a human body only for this reason, because you did some punya karmas and now you have a huge chance of getting out of this tamasha. You know, if you die with self-ignorance, it's a shame that you were born as a human and you died with self-ignorance. You came here with self-ignorance and went away with self-ignorance, missing the goal of life. That is a shame. You know, you didn't do what you're supposed to be. Health, wealth, prosperity here, this world, you know, catching hold of everybody, my son, my daughter, my this and that, you know. Forget it. Go focus on the goal, you know, get this knowledge. So this Sa eva jivaha, he takes himself to be different from. So if I do not make this effort and I just keep going from one temple to the other, asking God, please solve my problem, God, please solve my problem, what can God do? He is the author of law of karma. He has put the law of karma in place, and what I'm getting is what I'm supposed to be getting. Suppose a person is falling from a high-rise building and he starts praying to God, save me, save me, save me. Then if God changes the law of gravity for his sake, then others will start flying. So how can God change the law of gravity for this? And there is no other way of saving him. The laws are in place, you know. Yes, whenever we pray to God, He gives us courage and strength to face life. That is why we pray to God. But at least we have to know why I am praying to God. You praying that you want this, you want that, but He is helpless. Okay, if there is a mand and durlabh prarabdha, the karmas are, the prarabdhas are prabal, mand and durlabh, you know. If it is mand and durlabh and you've really been living a righteous life, you have changed everything, you've changed yourself. You know, what you've done in the past should just be forgotten. Don't even turn back and look there. Every sinner has a past and every saint has a future. You are here at this moment. That is why when people meet somebody, they are judging the person because of their past, you know. No, the person is changed, he's transformed. You don't even, in this moment, what I am is what has to be seen, because every person is making effort, you know, they're all changing. So, if you have lived a righteous life, doesn't matter, God doesn't take into account what you have done. You made some mistakes, you realize your mistakes, you change yourself, and today you're living a very righteous life. God is going to change your mand and durlabh prarabdha, but not prabal prarabdha. Prabal prarabdha is your destiny. That is because of some karmas I have done. They cannot be changed. So I have to know what I have to go and pray. So such a person, an ignorant person, takes himself to be different from Ishvara. Then we'll read. Avidya upadhihi san. Atma jiva iti uchyate. Mayo upadhi san. Atma Ishvara iti uchyate. Yeah. So Atma word here, you know, I told you that since everything is a manifestation of Atma, this word Atma is used for physical body, for mind, for senses, for reflected consciousness, for original consciousness. Anything in different contexts in the Shastras is going to be used. So in this particular sentence, Atma means the reflected consciousness. That we have to know. Upadhi is the reflecting medium. The word upadhi is made up of two syllables, upadhi. Up means close by, dhi is placing something on, placing our attributes on something which is close by. We place the attributes of our body, mind, sense complex on Atma, and we take ourselves to be this individual. So here he is saying avidya upadhi san. You know, when we had studied the Karan Sharira, we had the definition was anirvachya anadi avidya rupam, if you remember. That was the definition of Karan Sharira. Karan Sharira said that it is self-ignorance. Self-ignorance is the Karan why I am here. That is the Karan why I am here. And Karan, from the Karan Sharira, the Sukshma and Sthul Shariras manifest, because God is going to give you another chance to remove this ignorance. So the Sthul and Sukshma Sharira you get, you know. So it is the Karan Sharira which is the cause, and the Sukshma and Sthul Shariras are the manifestations from there. So the reflection, the Atma, the reflected consciousness in these three Shariras is known as Jivati Uchyate, is known as the Jiva. I've just explained that to you, who's the Jiva. Now this is it. Maya Upadhi San Atma Ishvara iti Uchyate. The reflected consciousness in Maya. Maya is what? Karan Prapancha. We studied that, you know. The causal matter in totality is Maya. And from Maya, what is born? Sukshma Mahabhutas, and from Sukshma Mahabhutas, Sukshma Bhautikas, and from Sukshma Bhutas, the Sthul Bhutas, and from the Sthul Bhutas, the Sthul Bhautikas. So everything is coming from Maya. So these three Shariras, the consciousness which gets reflected in these three Shariras, in the, not Shariras, in the Prapancha. From Maya is the Karan Prapancha, from there the Sukshma Prapancha and the Sthul Prapancha. It's the totality here, you know. So the consciousness getting reflected in the three Prapancha is Ishvara. Now you've understood, I already explained it, you know. So the micro-reflected medium and the micro-reflected consciousness is equal to, it's a equation I'm telling you, is equal to Jiva. Macro reflecting medium plus macro reflected consciousness is Ishvara. So, and Brahman is neither micro nor macro. He is the Bimba and these two are the Pratibimba. Yeah. So now we will read ahead. Evam उपाधि भेदात जीव ईश्वरो भेद दृष्टियः यावत् पर्यन्तं तिष्ठति तावत् पर्यन्तं जन्म मरण आदि रूप संसारो न निवर्तते. Evam, in this manner, upadhi bhedat. Where is the difference? The difference is in the upadhi between Jeev and Ishvara. Jeev Ishvaro. Bheda drishtiya. This in my mind, till I have this drishti, till my perception is that Jeev is separate from Ishvara. Yavat paryantam tishtati. Till it exists. This difference in my drishti that Ishvara and Jeev are separate, till it is there, tavat paryantam, till then, janma maran adi roop sansar na nivartate. This samsara, this life of samsara which goes from one death to another life, to another death, to another birth, to another death, this is called samsara. And while living here, we are stung with that bhava roga. Bhava roga is always trying to become something because of the dissatisfaction I feel because of ahamkara, you know. So this I will not be able to get out of this, come what may, till this bhed drishti is there in me. If you want samsara to end, this bhed drishti has to end. This, and how will it end? It will end with the self-knowledge only. How else can it end? You know, there is no other way it can end. So I have to work and I have to get the self-knowledge, you know. If I take myself to be different from Ishvara, I will always remain Ishvara's dasa. Ishvara will be my master. I will be his servant. I will be called I will say dasoham. And there is something else called soham. If you've heard, Soham means Saha Aham. I am you. And there are organizations who greet each other by saying Soham, like we are saying Hari Om. Hari Om is, Hari is what? Reflected consciousness. Om is original consciousness. We have to travel from reflected consciousness to original consciousness. That is why we are using Hari Om here, Every time we utter this word Hari Om, it's a reminder that this is my journey. I have to travel from reflected consciousness to original consciousness. Once Bhagwan Ram, he asked Hanumanji that who are you? So he said, Deha Buddhya Dasoham, Jiva Buddhya Twadam Shakaha, Atma Buddhya Twavamevaham, iti me Nishchitam Matihi. Nishchitam Matihi means I am absolutely sure. Nishchitam Matihi. I am absolutely clear about these one thing. Deha Buddhya Dasoham. When it comes to from the point of view of your Deha and my Deha, then definitely I am your Das, Dasoham, and you are the master, because there's no comparison, Jiva Buddhya Twadam Shakaha. From the point of view of the reflected consciousness, I am your Amsha. Samashti is the totality, we've seen that. Samashti means the totality, and the totality has to include the Vyashti, otherwise it's not totality. But why Shastras talk about Vyashti, Samashti and all that? Because in my mind I take myself to be different from Ishvara. So they have to start from there. So he is saying when it comes to the reflected consciousness, everything is one, is totality, which is Ishvara, and I am just one Amsha of yours, which is from the point of reflected consciousness. Then Atma Buddhya Tvavamevaham. But from the point of view of Atma, original consciousness, Tvavamevaham, I am you, you are me, there is no difference. Soham, Saha Aham, this is what I have to know. In Hinduism not Advaita Vedanta only. We have so many schools of thoughts here in Hinduism. There are actually about 6 main, there's many more, but 6 at least are known. And in Vedanta itself there are 3. Dvait Vedanta, Vishta Advait Vedanta and Advait Vedanta. Dvaita Vedanta, these are different interpretation of Brahma Sutras, because they can be interpreted. That's how subtle they are. You can interpret it in any way, So there was a teacher called Madhvacharya. He interpreted the Brahma Sutras saying there is Dvaitam here. There is no way Jiva and Ishvara can be same. There is Dvaitam here, Then there was another teacher called Ramanujacharya. He said this is Vishishta Dvaita. Everything is Ishvara and Jiva is an Amsha of Ishvara. Ramanujacharya centers here in Hyderabad. The Chinnajira Swami heads it, and they are believers of Vishishta Dvaita, and Modi ji had just come and inaugurated that statue, But Advaita, which is the actual interpretation of the Vedas, Adi Shankaracharya ji has written commentaries on this on Prasthantraya. Prasthantraya is Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutras. On this to show the clarity, no, this is Advaita here, because we are not talking about Bimba, we are not talking about Pratibimba and the reflecting medium. The reality is the original consciousness. The reality is Advaita. That is what he did when he was born, this, our country, 80% of the people had become Buddhists here. And that little bit which was there was following all sorts of different philosophies here. He went from person to person, the head of that whichever philosophy was being followed. Buddhists, though, he chased them out of India, they all went to these other countries close by. Buddhism was removed from India by when he came. And these other people, he went to them and did Shastrartha, sat down and discussed. There was no competition, nothing. We just have to convince you how it is Advaita here, And they all got convinced. And they, they became his followers and his shishyas after that. So our journey is to go from reflected consciousness to original consciousness. Shift this meaning of I from reflected consciousness to original consciousness, That is why we pray Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma amritam gamaya. This is the prayer we have to go and pray when we go to the temple. Not just asking Bhagwan for beggar ke jaise, with the bowl in the hand, ye de do, I will give you, you give this. So you have to, Vedantins have to stop it, it doesn't make sense at all. Asatoma sadgamaya. Oh God, please take me from asat to sat, from unreal to real. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya. Tamas is the darkness of ignorance, and Jyoti is the light of knowledge. So please God, take me from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. Mrityoma amritam gamaya. Please take me from mortality to immortality. Now who's mortal? Ahamkara is mortal. Who's immortal? Atma is immortal. So, oh God, please take me, help me to disidentify from this mortal ahamkara and help me identify as my reality with Atma. God only can do this. I can pray, but I have to study. I have to put all my effort in, studying the Shastras and then pray side by side. Help me God, because I want to get out of this life of samsara. This life of samsara is that life of fear, insecurity, unhappiness. A life of anxiety, tension and worry. Outside everything is very nice. Smile, smile, smile. From inside, deep down inside, there is fear, there's insecurity. Just let anything go wrong. Just this much. See the faces of everyone. From where's that coming? It's all inside. Everybody is fearful inside. Everybody is insecure inside. As a jiva, you cannot be secure. You have to realize this truth. Only then you can become secure, All these financial investments of ours, they can never ever remove this emotional insecurity of fear. How is it going to remove? All our money in the banks, how is this going to remove my emotional problem of insecurity and unhappiness? In fact, that money is only making me insecure. Well, I'm worried about that money now. I have to handle that money. Something goes wrong with that money, if that you're put in the shares and as it's going around, here only that up and down is happening, seeing that is going up and down. So that money is itself one problem, So this is not the solution. See how those genuine sannyasis have just given up everything and walked out. I'm saying genuine because there are a whole lot of fake people around here today. In our religion, so much of regards was given to the saffron robes, and how much regard was given to a sannyasi. If a sannyasi walked into the kingdom, the king would stand up, not had to. There was so much of regards he would stand up, because that person has the guts to give up everything. We are not like Westerners, oh, you're a billionaire and a zillionaire, so, we'll do anything, touch your feet also. No. It is that person who has given up everything is the courageous person. Rest are holding on to everything for their dear life. That is why Shastra says, na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagena ike amritatvam anashuhu. Amritatvam anashuhu. Immortality can be reached na karmana, not by activities, not by karma, na prajaya, not by family, children, relatives, no, na dhanena, not by dhan, tyagain eka, by tyaga of this ahamkara, I can get immortality, I can become fearless in my life if I can give up this ahamkara, I disidentify from this ahamkara, Vidya dhanam sarva dhanat pradhanam. This is the only dhana an akal manda will look out for. The rest mudhas and vimudhas are chasing material prosperity, which will not get them anything. It is a useless chase what we are doing, So, as long as I know if I can get this, I can live a quality life can only be lived by a person who has this knowledge. Rest are not living quality life, be very sure. Outside all this, they're keeping themselves busy, but inside there is big trouble there. So the message of the entire Vedas is what? You are the Atma and not this Ahamkara. And both of them are reflected consciousness, both of them are consciousness. Ahamkara is reflected consciousness and Atma is original consciousness. Both are consciousness, but problem is that this reflected consciousness in the Prakriti is so powerful that every moment, is just going on producing this Ahamvritti. Non-stop the Ahamvritti is being produced in the Prakriti, in the mind, Every thought is based on Ahamvritti. And Purusha is just present, blessing the Prakriti. It is no action, nothing. Atma is just present and blesses the Prakriti, and Prakriti is going on producing Ahamvritti. Non-stop Ahamvritti is being produced, So it is difficult, but the source, the total source of peace and happiness is only Atma. This Ahamkara is a bottomless pit. It is always dissatisfied, because of the sense of lack at every layer of our personality and every accomplishment of ours, because there is always a better thing which we can still look out for, and our layers of personality are limited. And because of this sense of limitation we have, there is a desire in us to remove that sense of limitation. And for removing the sense of limitation, we have to do karma. And problem with these desires is that when we fulfill one desire, it has a knack of leaving its progeny. Not one, you fulfill one desire, there will be 10 more desires which are produced, Because in the fulfillment of the desire, I have experienced happiness. And that person has no idea about the absolute happiness, so he is hooked on to that happiness which this world is giving. And so this person wants to go on repeating those experiences, or even a better experience to experience that happiness. And this world is spinning around, fulfilling their desires, getting experiences. This is what the world is doing. One person is divorcing a person because he thinks he'll get happiness, and the other person is waiting actually to marry that same person, thinking he's going to get happiness. So nobody is learning anything from their experiences. They're just repeating the experiences. This knowledge requires certain amount of emotional maturity. The person should have learned some lessons from this university of life. Something should have been learnt. Shastras say, Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirved mayayat. Pariksha means examination. Lokan means my experiences. A person who examines his experiences and can see the hollowness of life can be the only one who will become nirveda. Nirveda is dispassionate. He is going to get vairagya. So for vairagya you need viveka. That is why in that sadhan chatushte sampatti there is an order, vivek, vairagya, samadhi, shat sampatti, mumukshutvam. Only if you have viveka can you get vairagya. When you have vairagya, the samadhi, shat sampatti will increase. When samadhi, shat sampatti increases, you're going to get mumukshutvam. And once mumukshutvam comes, it's going to drive you to get moksha, And Vedanta is not going to give you security. It just reveals the fact that you are Paramatma and you do not need security. So for Jivan Mukti, first there has to be samsara nivritti. Nivritti is getting rid of, Samsara nivritti happens because of ahamkara, mamkara nivritti. This I and mine has to go. For ahamkara and mamkara nivritti, there has to be adhyasa nivritti. This superimposition of unreal on real, taking myself to be this body, When adhyasa nivritti happens, then gradually this deha abhimana is going to go. This disidentification from my body is going to go. Disidentification of the body is not going to go in any other way. Only by studying the Shastras, how much we are going into the detail, then we understand what is all this about. So there's going to be deha abhimana nivritti, If I just go and sit in meditation, where most of the organizations are doing that, you sit down and you try and become thoughtless, or concentrate on your chakras and concentrate on your breathing, how is that going to give you deha abhimana nivritti? There is no chance that you can disidentify your body just by sit in meditation and I sit for 10 minutes every day and I become thoughtless. No, you need the thoughts to understand all this. This is the work of the mind. That is why this is Gyan Marga. Dvaita and Vishishta Advaita, Bhakti Marga. As long as you are away from Ishvara, the only way you can reach Ishvara is with Bhakti. But Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta is Gyan Marga. You understand this by knowledge, So there is, in that, if you sit in meditation for 10 minutes, you will get some temporary peace. Yeah, the moment you become thoughtless, there is peace of mind, But not moksha, and moksha is where you're going to get absolute peace. So problem is in our world today here that they're just going on producing more and more distractions here, They're giving you escape routes to escape from the tyranny of the mind. Keep your mind occupied somewhere so that you don't get any chance to think. So, today you can go to space for 10 minutes to experience zero gravity. You earn and then go for an experience for 10 minutes and experience zero gravity and come back so thrilled with life, I experienced zero gravity over there. As long as, if this samsara, this world, you cannot turn away from this tempting samsara, which is all the objects are luring my senses and the mind, there is no chance of moksha. You can't have the cake and eat it too. This game of life has been designed by omniscient Ishvara. So it's not going to be an easy game. That mind has designed this game, It's a tough game here, this life, And moksha is a tall order. You don't get moksha by go and sit under the Bodhi tree, Lots of people, they'll go there and they sit on a Bodhi tree because Buddha got enlightenment when he sat under the Bodhi tree, so I am going to sit and I'll get enlightenment. Buddha did so much of tapasya and tyaga, gave up everything, and then it so happened that he was sitting under the Bodhi tree when he got enlightenment. So you're not going to get enlightenment if you just go and sit under the Bodhi tree just like that. You have to follow what the scriptures are saying. Moksha is a very tall order, so it has to be. We'll just take one more this thing. Evam upadhi bhedat, this we tasmat karanat जीव ईश्वरो भेद बुद्धि न स्वीकार्याः. So tasmat, therefore, for this reason, Jeev Ishvaro Bhed Buddhi, this difference between Jeev and Ishvara, na svikaryaha, please do not accept this difference. The acceptance is only because of self-ignorance. It cannot be anything but self-ignorance, and we have to make an effort to remove the self-ignorance. Most of the people, when they see a Swamiji and all that coming, they'll run to, take his blessings, and you just have to put your hand on my head and, if you put, all my problems are going to solve. And there are some organizations, they create that emotional build-up in a person, First they will make everybody sit down, and that person, the spiritual person, is going to come later, and this emotions are getting built up here in the person. Then after half an hour, 45 minutes, there'll be a soft music which will play. Then from far you see that spiritual person coming in. That, this is all emotions play, All this is how they do all the drama here. Then they take a peacock feather and they will touch the people, Swami Chinmayananda ji called it spiritucution, like electrocution, you get electrocuted, so you get spiritucuted, you touch everybody. And the people are so thrilled, they're crying, and it is all a game of emotions. You only cry when your emotions are so full and high. So this is the drama which is on around here, and people, the vulnerable people, which the Shastras call mudhas and vimudhas, this is what they're doing. Maximum rush is there. So wherever you see rush, please don't go. You know, wherever there are two people sitting, Vedanta is being spoken about when nobody is going to come near Vedanta, you know. So where this is big drama happening, all spirituation going on and all that, and stay away, please, you know. So with Vedanta, we don't have to accept this, and Vedanta is not going to change my outer situations, please know that. My prarabdha is not going to change, but it's giving me sudarshan. It is changing my darshan, so that then I will, with this mind, with this darshan of mine, everything becomes insignificant here. These problems are minor problems of life, they come and go, and agama payo anityaha tam titikshasva bharata. Just put up with this, have titiksha. Bhagwan says in Bhagavad Gita, this will come and this will go. Even if I have to go die, so I have to die. What to do? This body has to die. It's not mortal. I'm not chiranjeevi. Chiranjeevi means you'll never die. You know, the physical body will never die. You know, that doesn't happen. We are going to die, so we get ready to die. And with strength, with this knowledge, there's so much of strength which is coming. You see the strength in a person, then that is a sign this person has some knowledge which I want to have, you know. How come this person is comfortable? How come others are fretting and fuming with 1,000 people around, they are still not comfortable? The presence of other people makes no sense. You can be so lonely and surrounded by 20 people, you know. And you can be so comfortable living by yourself. So what is all this? This is some mental conditioning, and from childhood the mind is conditioned, you know. So that is it. Vedanta, once we have to focus. Please do not accept this difference between Jiva and Ishvara. Jiva and Ishvara mein there is an Ekyam. This is the topic. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.